Hey everyone, and welcome to another video on this evening that we're smashing at all these videos. And this one should be a fun one because we are going to give you our worst 11 of the season. And this is based on new signings. So worst 11 new signings that have come into the Premier League this season. I had to do. I filled out the majority of mine from memory, but I did have to fill in a few blanks for some of the positions because I just couldn't think of anybody. You've done all of yours from memory, which tells me that maybe I've missed a few from my memory and forgotten about them. So
this is purely based on my opinion, so I don't want any stick for any fans that think these players have done well.
So right, I've gone 4-4-2 for this one.
Okay. I've gone 4-3-3.
So why don't you start us off and give us your goalkeeper?
Yeah, so this was one of the toughest positions I think to pick. I went for Dean Henderson. Not necessarily. I think he played well when he was playing for Forest.
Is it just because he's a prick?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that is partly the reason that he's burnt all his bridges at United by slagging them off. And now Forest have signed another goalkeeper to take his place.
Who's eminently better than him as well.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to stay at Forest. He's not going to be able to go back to United. So he's kind of stabbed himself in the back there, really.
Yeah.
But it was more on the fact that was a big part of it, as well as the fact that Keylor Navas came in and just completely took his job.
Yeah, he really did hit him. So I actually went a bit left field. I tried to be a bit funny with this one.
Okay.
So I went for somebody that we've basically not seen since they were signed all season. So I've basically, because I also couldn't think of a goalie that was worth it. I did think of Dean Henderson, but I thought actually no, he did okay.
Yeah, that's what
saved a few big penalties
and
stuff like that. He played okay, so I thought I don't want to tag him as a worst signing. But then I just couldn't think of another goalie. So in the end, I went with Arthur Melo. Because as far as I'm concerned, he might be a goalie because I've never fucking seen him play. So yeah, Arthur Melo is my goalie because he's about as useful in goal as he's been anywhere else this season. Signed for Liverpool to play midfield, and we've just not seen him all season. No. It's been arguably the worst signing. I think actually he was your worst signing for the podcast, wasn't he? Yeah. So because I couldn't think of a goalkeeper, I've thrown in Arthur Melo. He can go in the sticks because he's clearly not good enough to play out on pitch. I thought you
might have gone for Butland.
The trouble is that he was never signed to be like a first team goalie, was he? Like, so in my mind, I was thinking about players who were signed to play and improve the team and then didn't.
Yeah.
And I feel like Jack Butland was never signed to be anything other than a backup to De Gea. So, right, into my back four then. So I'll start with my right back, and I've gone for Damsgaard.
Okay.
At Brentford. I feel like he's not really hit the heights. I think he played really well he's more of a wing back, I think, than he is a full back for Brentford. So he's maybe kind of out of position in this lineup here. But I don't think that Brentford will feel like they've had huge value for money out of him. And they've had issues with like Lewis Potter. I think he was signed and there was a lot of hype around him a little bit coming in from Hull. He's not really done well, but he's had a lot of injuries. But Damsgaard was so good for Denmark. And I feel like he's just not replicated that at all for Brentford. So Mikkel Damsgaard is my pick. I think he has been better towards the end of the season, but I think he's been deployed more as a central defender. But when he was at fullback, I thought he was quite poor. So
fair enough.
Yeah, I mean we're going to get pelters for this for some of these picks. So feel free to abuse us in the comments.
So my right back, I went for Ivan Perisic.
Was he not more of a left back though?
Yes.
I'll let you off.
He was. Wow. He's a wing back, so he can play on both wings.
In fairness, he is 2-footed.
He was a right back.
In fairness, he is 2-footed. He probably could do right back if you asked him.
Wow, I've picked him. I'm sticking with him. I mean, you put Melo in goal, so you can't fucking...
This is true. I'll let you off. There you go. That's our one each. There you go.
So yeah, I went for Perisic. I really thought that he would be really unreal signing especially under Conte. Obviously, he's played under Conte before. I thought as a wing back, he'd be so attacking. everyone put him in their FPL team
Yeah,
straight
I was
away.
going to say he was a huge pick for everyone.
He just didn't really do anything. I mean, he hardly played, and I thought, well, fair enough. He's just come from the Italian league, and it's going to take him a while to get going, and he still hasn't really got going.
Yeah, I mean, everyone had him down as one of that was in some people's minds that was one of the signings of the summer because he came in on the cheap, really experienced player. I know he's not the youngest, but you know, with the experience that he brings in to work into a tactical setup like what Conte was having at Spurs, it seemed like a dream fit. And obviously, you know, Spurs have had an awful season anyway, but yeah, Perisic has been a mile from where we thought he would be. So I think that's a fair pick, that one. Right, your left back.
Left back, I went for Cucurella.
That's a great shout. Yeah, how did I not think of him?
Yeah, I mean, he was obviously very good at Brighton. Made the big money move. I think it was 50 million or so in the end to Chelsea, and it has been an absolute disaster. I mean, there's a few Chelsea players that you could quite easily put on this list, to be honest.
Yeah, there are.
But yeah, I remember watching him I think it was against Spurs when I was on holiday in Barcelona. And just watch it. I think I just spent the whole game watching him because he just looked like a lost sheep out there. He was awful.
Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? Because on paper he should have been a brilliant sign. You look at the season he had for Brighton the year before.
Yeah.
I mean, he was pretty close to going to Man City.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like Chelsea were the only ones interested in him.
And then Potter joined, so you thought, well, he's playing under his old manager.
And it just he's really looked. Just as you say, a lost sheep. It doesn't help that sometimes the way he moves, the way he runs, coupled with his stupid fucking haircut, just makes it look even worse. So yeah, no, I think that's a very valid pick at left back, especially given the price tag as well. My left back, I'll be honest, this was one that popped up when I was trying to find a left back because I didn't think of Cucurella. Was Ruben Vinagre, who plays for Everton. So as I say, this one was a Google pick, but reading up on him a little bit, I think this is a very valid one. And the reason he didn't come into my thinking was because he's played a grand total of 24 minutes this season.
Wow.
He's only on loan at Everton, but Everton obviously thought something of him when they recruited him in from Sporting, that they negotiated like a 17-18 million pound option to sign him. And I think they might be sending him back to Portugal. So yeah, Ruben Vinagre been awful this season. Obviously they lost... did they lose Luca Dean at the end of last season?
Yeah, he's at Villa, isn't he? Yeah.
No, I know you've gone there, but I didn't. Was it the end of last season? I think, or was it before that?
We fell out with Benitez, didn't he? I think.
Yes. So it might have been maybe the January previous. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
because Carlo was there after Benitez, wasn't he?
No, Lampard came in after Benitez.
Oh, okay. So it's Carlo, then Benitez, then Lampard.
I believe so. Yeah.
It's been so many.
Yeah, lose track. We could be wrong. There could be somebody else who we've forgotten about. So yeah, I think that there was an option there. There was a need for a left back with them, and they've ended up going with Mikalenko, who I don't actually rate that highly either. But Vinagre has proven not to be the answer for Everton. Okay, right, centre back. One of which was from memory, one of which wasn't. I'll go for the one that wasn't. Let me just quickly find his first name on here, so I give him the thing, because his surname is hard enough to pronounce as it is. Alia Zabani, right? Yeah. So I apologise that I've not done this all from memory, but I don't know, I just couldn't think of any other centre back that really stood out. He's had a couple of injuries, signed for fairly big money from Dynamo Kiev, and he's just really not featured at all for Brighton. I think he's done six odd appearances. For Bournemouth, yeah. And yeah, he's just not really featured at all. I don't know how much of the season he's missed with an injury, but when you're looking at signings that want to come in and improve your team, when he comes in from big money and barely features all season for one reason or another, you have to put him down as a pretty bad signing. So yeah, Zabani is that one. The one from memory, I've gone for Wesley Fofana.
Okay.
Again, value for money. Yeah. Chelsea have been really fucking shortchanged on this one.
Yeah.
How much was it 80 million?
Yeah.
That they paid for him? He's just not really, done anything really. He spent all of the previous season injured, came back towards the end of the season, made a pretty big difference to Leicester at the end of last season, signed for big money, and he has just looked out of his depth, frankly. Some of the defending has been laughable at Chelsea, and he's been, unfortunately, part of that. So he has got a lot of work to do under Pochettino to prove that he is going to be... He might get away with the fact that Thiago Silva's leaving. That could be a massive boost to him, because if Thiago Silva was still there, it wouldn't surprise me. Given that Pochettino, I think, has worked with Thiago Silva before at PSG, he might have gone Thiago Silva and Badiashile, depending on what formation. So Fofana might have got a lifeline there. He's got a lot of work to do, but yeah, for 80 million, I think he's been a dreadful signing for Chelsea this season.
Yep. So my two centre-backs, I did struggle with the centre-backs, to be honest. I went for the first one, Wout Faes, for Leicester.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Improved a little bit towards the end, but for the most part, I thought he was an awful replacement for Fofana. I think he scored a fair few own goals this season. He just looked, again, like Cucurella, like a lost sheep out there. And
it must be the haircuts.
Yeah.
He's got the same haircut.
I don't know what happened with Soyuncu, but he fell out with Brendan Rodgers and was hardly in the team, and he's now going to... I can't remember where he's going, but he's leaving on a free. And they signed Wout Faes to sort of replace the two of them, I guess, Fofana and Soyuncu, and I thought he was shit.
Yeah, no, he's not been good at all this season.
And then, I also went for a Chelsea centre-back. I went for Koulibaly.
I'd forgotten about him, actually, yeah.
Yeah, started off quite well, scored a really good volley, I think, in his debut or second game or so. And then since then, like you say, I forgot he played for Chelsea, to be honest, because he's hardly been in the team. Only dawned on me when I went to the Chelsea game, and at the end when all the players walked round, I thought, oh yeah, Koulibaly plays. I don't know what's happened to him, but I mean, you're not another player that was linked with United, and I'm glad we didn't sign him, because he looks, well, not that I watch a lot of Serie A, but for Napoli, he was sort of one of their best players and constantly linked with moves away, and I don't really see what the big appeal was.
I wonder if the move came too late, because he was 31, 32, so I wonder if that move, the big move to the Premier League for a team like Chelsea, perhaps if that had come a few years earlier, maybe different, I don't know. And who knows, maybe he just fell victim to the same plague that affected all the other Chelsea players this season. Maybe Pochettino can get a tune out of him next year. We'll have to wait and see. Right midfield.
Yeah, so my midfield, I went 4-3-3. First one, I also went for Arthur Melo, but I actually put him in midfield.
Wasted in midfield, put him in goal.
I mean, obviously he was a shocking signing. I think a big part towards injury. Didn't play a single minute, so that's not going to go down in history, is it? Well, it might do, just not,
the wrong way.
Second one, I put Jesse Lingard because
brings me great joy.
Yeah, just what a bell end, really. Went to Forest over West Ham. I can only assume for money reasons.
He said it wasn't money, but I think it had to have been. I can't think
what else it would have been, really. Yeah. Signed on a 1-year deal, which to me also means that it was for money reasons. So he can leave for free now, and God knows where he'll go, probably MLS or something. But yeah, he just didn't play like a, he said he went there for the project and stuff like that, but he didn't play like a player that went there for the project.
No.
He played like a player that just wanted to get home and make some TikTok videos. So swiftly moving on. So this one's maybe a little bit left field. I went for Coutinho.
Yeah, I guess because he was signed permanently. Yeah, okay.
Signing. On loan last season, he was quality. It seems to be that permanent signing that I don't know what's happened to him, but it's not the same Coutinho. I don't know if it's his shitter twin that they've signed by accident, and Bayern Munich have kept the actual Coutinho. But yeah, I think he's hardly featured for them this season. Yeah,
I mean, with the greatest respect, if you can't get into that midfield ahead of John McGinn, I know John McGinn is, he's a great asset to have to a team because of his work rate and his effort and his tenacity. But Coutinho is technically a vastly superior player. Right now you would have John McGinn over Coutinho every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Yeah.
It's amazing at Coutinho's, if you think of his career and the trajectory it's taken since he was at Liverpool, played out of his skin for Liverpool, Left to go to Barcelona because he wanted to win the Champions League, and then ironically Liverpool won the Champions League the following season. And I think he did okay in his first season at Barcelona, and then since then, it's just been sort of just a downward trajectory, with peaks and troughs. But if you think about the peaks and troughs, it's always been in a kind of downward trajectory. So, I don't know what's next for Coutinho. I don't know whether his future lies away from Villa. It wouldn't surprise me if maybe he went back to Spain or something like that. We'll maybe see what he does. But for a player of his technical ability to fall out the way he has,
it's so strange.
He was a regular for like Brazil.
Yeah, well, even last season he was good for Villa. He
is Brazilian, isn't he?
Yeah,
he is. Good picks. Right, so I've got 4 in midfield. So I'll run through them.
Are they left mid, right mid, centre mid?
Yes, although the left mid and the right mids. The right mid certainly is probably not a right mid. Right. I think the left mid is a reasonably accurate, although maybe he's more of a left winger. So I'll start with my right midfielder. I've gone for Jesse Lingard. I couldn't ignore that. What an absolute fucking helmet that man is. The amount of emotions that I went through last summer because obviously he was so good for us when he came on loan, and for one reason or another he didn't stay permanently. Man United maybe blocked the move, and then he was meant to go to Newcastle. That didn't happen. You think of the potential of Jesse Lingard and where he could have gone at that moment when he was really at the peak of his powers. Could have gone to Newcastle in an evolving Newcastle team.
Yeah.
Under Eddie Howe, who would undoubtedly have got the best out of him. But he chose Nottingham Forest apparently over West Ham because he said he felt the love from Nottingham Forest more than he did from West Ham. And you think, well, why would West Ham get down on their knees and beg and grovel? You've already been there. You know what the setup is like. You know the manager. You know all the players. You know the stadium. You know everything about the club from the time there. Why would we need to get down on our knees and beg you? And there was obviously all these rumours about the amount of money that was being offered by Forest, which I think was disproven in the end. I don't think the money offered wasn't that much different between the two. I think he is getting more at Forest. But he went for that 1 year deal. I think he just went there for an easy ride.
Yeah.
I think that was as simple as it is. I think he thought he was going to be a big fish in a little pond. I think he thought that he would sort of be able to use that big fish rep to maybe build up his TikTok and social media following and his clothing brands, all this other shit. And I think it's had a real backfire on him. And I don't know what's next for him, as you say. I pray to God that if David Moyes is still in charge of West Ham next season, that he doesn't make a move for him. Because for me, he's done.
Yeah, I think he's done.
So it wouldn't surprise me if another Premier League team took a gamble on him, but it won't be a big team.
No.
As I say, I think MLS is probably his most likely destination for the time being. So yeah, that one brings me great joy to put in there. Left midfielder went Anthony Gordon.
Yep.
I think that obviously he has had a few injuries, so maybe it's a little bit harsh. But I think to how he left Everton and the fact that he, obviously Everton have stayed up, so he's worked out sort of. But the way in which he left Everton and the statement that he released when he left was basically I love Everton so much, I just want them to succeed, but I think we're shit and we're going to get relegated, so I'm going to go and play for Newcastle. And he hasn't really played for Newcastle at all. I think he only started one game, which was that last game of the season against Chelsea, in which he scored. And I just think he's been a pretty big disappointment given they paid a fairly decent sum for him. So we may yet see the best from him. He's not a bad player. I think he's a bit of a twat. But I think that Eddie Howe will, he will get more games next season. Assuming he's fit, he'll get more games with the European Champions League now that they're in. So maybe we'll see more of him next year. And maybe see a bit more of his quality. Central midfield. So by way, I went, all 4 of these were from memory.
Okay.
I already had them in before I looked at this list you're looking at now. So if you happen to see any names in there that are on my list, only the ones I've already mentioned were from that list. Calvin Phillips, centre midfield. Again, he's had injury problems, but when we have seen him, he's just been poor. He even admitted himself that his confidence is shot.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if Man City moved him on. I don't think Pep has seen enough of him. Pep has even called him out once or twice this season for his fitness and attitude and things. So wouldn't surprise me if they moved him on as and looked to replace him. Potentially could be used as a make weight for Declan Rice. We'll have to wait and see. But so I think he's had a very poor season. A lot of hype around him. And then I went for Fabio Vieira.
Yep.
From Arsenal. Again, comes in with a lot of hype, a lot of reputation. not really had any impact on Arsenal. He's been used as a bench player more often than not. He's had little moments of quality here and there, but by and large, he's not really added anything to that Arsenal team. We've had a brilliant season, and he's not really added anything to them, to be honest. Still young, though, so potentially future. Right, on to our strikers. My two, I'd be quite surprised if you don't have at least one of these two. One of them is Richarlison, biggest wanker in football. And probably I had him as my worst signing of the whole season. I might be more biased just because I think he's a twat, but for 50 odd million, he is way better. If I take my my bias hat off, he is a way better player than he's shown Spurs this year.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's caused it. Is it the fact that Spurs have been poor? Is it the fact that he had a bit of a falling out with Conte, I think, behind the scenes? Is it that he's not a big fish in a little pond? Is it playing out of position and not playing regularly and coming off the bench and not being the main man like he was at Everton? But this is a guy who leads the line for Brazil and actually a pretty decent World Cup.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a player in there. But I think when you see the sort of antics that he gets up to on a football pitch, I mean, you think about the fact that he's been yellow carded 3 times this season for taking his shirt off, scoring a goal that then got VAR'd for offside.
Yeah.
One of which, and then he did that stupid celebration against Liverpool when he thought they got the equaliser, and then they obviously conceded straight away. You think about, I can't remember who they played. I'm going to say it was Bournemouth when he started doing like keep ups and then got fucking smashed, and there was a big thing about that as well. So what he needs to do is just stop the theatrics, stop the stupidness, and just focus on the basics and get back to just being first and foremost a good footballer, because he's got the ability to be. So you don't lead the line for Brazil by being a bad player, but when you've got tattoos on your back of yourself as well as Neymar and Ronaldo, I think that probably tells you a little bit about the mind of the man. So one of the worst signs of the season without question. Closely followed by Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. It was a very questionable signing in the first place anyway. I don't see why. He was obviously signed maybe because he'd worked under Tuchel before, but of course Tuchel, I'm fairly certain Tuchel got sacked before he'd even played a game with Aubameyang. I don't think he made it as far as they go. I think he was sacked really quickly after they signed him when he fell out with Todd Bowley. So, and obviously since then, I mean, I think he scored 1 or 2 goals at fairly early doors. Done absolutely nothing. In a team that basically didn't have a striker and haven't had one all season, he's barely had a look in. And I think that speaks volumes to what they think of him. So, he will be undoubtedly out the door in the summer. Rumours are that Barcelona maybe want him again, which is strange. Very strange. So I did have one honourable mention, but I took him out and put Aubameyang in instead. I did have Skamaka in there from West Ham.
Yeah, good shout.
He's had an injury hit season, but came in again with a lot of hype. Not done enough. He's even now being called out by Antonio in podcasts now, strangely. There we go. Richarlison and Aubameyang is my 2 strikers for my worst 11.
Nice. So I've obviously got a front 3. I also went for Richarlison because he has been absolutely wank this season and got more yellow cards for celebrating goals than actual goals.
I love it.
So I have Aubameyang, but I did actually have someone else before I swapped them and put Aubameyang in. So what I'll do, just to be different, I'll take Aubameyang out and go for who I had to start.
I mean, we all agree Aubameyang's been shit. So.
Yeah. So I'll go back to who I originally had, which was Mudryk.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of sort of sing and dancing about them signing Mudryk, and from what I've seen of him, he looks absolutely shit.
No, I don't see the potential. No. I don't see where this hype is coming from.
No. And that miss against United, I can't remember who crossed it in, but he was about 5 yards out. Opened up his body.
It was outside the city. It was about a
7 or 8.
Yeah, I mean, close enough. That
there was a few yards difference, but opened up his body so much that he nearly hit the corner flag with his shot.
Yeah, it was really bad.
And it's not just that one chance. He just doesn't look like the player that they signed. Who knows? He might kick on next season and prove everybody wrong. He's still a young player, and he's on an 8-year contract. So he's got 8 years to do it. But we'll see what happens. And the final forward for me, I went for about Weghorst.
I had a feeling he might feature in yours.
Yeah, he's a lovely bloke. he's just not a top 6 striker. I think he belongs at Burnley, and I'll be interested to see how he gets on at Burnley next season.
Forget that he's still on loan from there.
Yeah.
Like, he was on loan in Turkey.
Yeah, he was at Besiktas.
Yeah. They cancelled that loan to come to United on loan. I mean,
he started games because we had no other choice, but he's just not a striker. It's literally like playing with 10 men, and it's so obvious when he plays. I think he scored maybe 2 goals, and I think they were both cup goals. I don't know if he's actually scored a Premier League goal.
No, he didn't. I remember them saying when he missed that chance on the weekend that he was destined not to score a Premier League goal.
Yeah, he's literally your Hernan Crespo.
For real, mate,
yeah.
I mean, you'd be a lot more easy on him if he scored 18 goals in the Champions League.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just not worked out for him at all. But like I said, he tries really hard. He runs around so much and he presses really well, but with the ball, he's awful.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
You don't want a striker that's shit with the ball.
No, I mean, you know, he's a target man, he's a big guy.
Yeah.
And when you watch him play, and I watched him a number of times this season, and what really struck me was, I don't know whether this was him doing it or whether it was sort of clear instructions he was given from Ten Hag, but every time he got the ball, there was never really any thought to what he was going to do with it other than just finding the nearest Man United player, giving it to him and then running off.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like a really kind of schoolboy like tactic.
Yeah.
You know, are you really that bad as a footballer that either you don't believe in yourself or your manager doesn't, that you feel the need to just get the ball and at the earliest possible opportunity just give it to the nearest person? I mean, he was doing it literally like 2-yard passes, you know, and he never once even looked to go somewhere else. It was just right, you're there, you can have the ball, and I'll let you do everything else. You're the better player. You kind of crack on. So yeah, I mean, he was the loan deal. It was a bit of a panic one, I think. Obviously with the whole Ronaldo situation that was going on at the time as well.
Here's one for you. Who do you think was a better loan signing, Weghorst or Igalo? I mean, I know you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. But...
Yeah, I mean, this is... Oh, blimey. I would say probably... This is really tough. This is really tough because they were both kind of crap for different reasons. I feel like Igalo did more with the ball and scored more goals, but Weghorst probably did more off the ball.
Yeah.
I feel like Weghorst probably will take it because I feel like in a team where clearly Ten Hag wanted to be more intense without the ball and press higher, which he couldn't do really with Ronaldo.
Yeah. I
feel like maybe you would say Weghorst has been better because he gave you that ability to press, whereas Igalo, you know, was more clinical, scored, I don't know whether he got Premier League goals, whether he was more of a cup.
He did. I'd say he scored like 4 or 5, maybe.
Yeah. So, no, I'd say Weghorst was probably better, but we're talking pretty fine margins.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay. Right, well, there we go. That is our final list, unless we come up with another one, where we've gone through things. Do let us know what your worst 11 is, or just let us know what your feelings are for give us a couple of your worst signings of the season. Anyone that we've forgotten, do feel free to tear into ours. Let us know which one you think is better out of ours, and I don't think there's anything else to say on that. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment below, sub for more, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you later.